I'm going to show you today how to use the golf ball jig in Cuttle to create a jig to print on golf balls and use 0-point alignment in the EufyMake Studio to make sure that you get perfect alignment of all of your graphics every time. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to put in our jig size here. So the default that is going to be here is 13 by 16 and a half. And that is the size of the EufyMake printer bed, the large one. You're going to want to make sure that that size also fits in your laser. If it does not, you can adjust this to whatever is smaller. So say you're using like a Glowforge Pro, you could adjust this jig size to like 11 and a half by 19. And then you would want to make sure when you're adjusting your rows and columns for however many golf balls you are using that it fits within that jig size. So I have a larger laser, so I can do the full bed size of the EufyMake. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm just going to adjust my rows and columns here to fill up the jig, because the great thing about a jig is it's reusable. So I'm going to cut this out on my laser, and then I'm going to use that every time that I'm going to print on golf balls. So now that we have that, I'm just going to hit download SVG. I'm going to go cut that on my laser, and then we will move over to the printer. So I have my jig cut out here. There is a label down here that says what it is, and it says 00 right here, which is going to be where you're going to line up to 00 on your printer. These score lines are just the total diameter of the golf ball, and then they're going to sit in these little holes here. I want you to keep all of the little cutouts to do some testing. So that's our jig. You do not have to cut this out of acrylic. I just did because all of the wood that I have on hand right now is super warped, and I didn't want that to affect the height of the golf balls. You want them all to be the exact same height. So I use acrylic. You can use 1/8 thick material, or you can use 1/4 inch. Both will work. So what we're going to do is we're going to line up this 00 corner on our printer to the corner with the little green half square, and line it up along both of these edges. So the right edge and the bottom edge, you're going to line it up perfectly, and that's how you're going to know every single time to place it in the exact same spot. So you're going to stick that down. We're using the large EufyMake bed. So now that we have our jig cut and placed on our printer, we need to work on the graphics. So if you scroll down here to the print file, this is going to be a preview of what your logo is going, or your image, sorry, is going to look like. So you can just click here to upload a different image if you would like. I'm going to pick one from here. This is going to be included in this Cuttle template if you want to use this image as well. So you can see our image has uploaded here, and it needs a little bit of finessing because it's kind of small. So you have your image scale here and your image position options. So I'm going to increase the scale. I want it to be as large as possible, but still fit within this image boundary. So I'm just going to slide over here, and then I'm going to move it down a bit and over a bit. So you can fiddle with this to get your image as perfect as you'd like it. So that looks pretty good to me. It's still within that gray boundary. You'll see if you accidentally make it too big, it's going to start cutting off your image. That's because the optimal size to print on a golf ball, since it is curved, is fairly small. It's 0.75 inches. So now that we have our image how we like it, you can preview how they're all going to look in there, and then you can also download your print file. So this is going to be automatically positioned at the 00 position, so we can send that to the EufyMake Studio. So I'm just going to download this, and then we are going to move over to the EufyMake Studio. So in the EufyMake Studio, we're going to make sure that we have our standard flatbed selected. And here under print alignment, we're going to use 0 point. That saves a lot of time because it takes a long time for the camera to do a snapshot of the entire large bed. It's also not as accurate as a 0-point alignment. So make sure you're over here on 0 point. If you have not run the 0-point calibration before, or you've replaced your mat, you want to do that first so that it is calibrated perfectly and your prints will end up where you're expecting. So like I mentioned before, we kept the little circles that got cut out from our laser, and we're going to put them back into the little holes that are cut out here. So when we run a test print, we're going to make sure that our print is centered on those little circles instead of potentially wasting any golf balls for our first test. So we can go over to the left here and press import. And I'm going to find my print file, and there we have it. So what we want to make sure is that this is aligned to the right side and the bottom. So while that's selected, I'm just going to go over here to alignment, and I'm going to say right align and bottom align. So now we know that that's aligned exactly where we want it to be. Now, before we put any golf balls in, like I said before, with those little circles put back into your jig, you're going to go ahead and print this. So for your ink mode, you can just select whatever you'd like, whether that's just CMYK. We're just doing a practice run just to make sure that everything is aligned before we put actual golf balls in there. And then your quality, you can put down to draft as well. We're not so concerned about what the image actually looks like. We're just concerned with where it's going to appear on your jig. Okay, so my test turned out great. It printed in the middle of all of my little circle cutouts on the whole sheet. If it did not, you're going to want to run the 0-point calibration in the EufyMake Studio again. And so now that we've tested that, I am ready to print some actual golf balls. Now, I only need to print 6 today, so I'm going to go back to Cuttle and tell it that I just want 1 row of the print file, and I will show you how to do that. So here I am going to adjust the number of rows to just be 1. Like that. So that's our 6 that we need to do. And then I'm just going to download that and open it up in the EufyMake Studio. So again, we're going to go to import. I'm going to open that up. And again, we want to always make sure that we are aligned to the right and aligned to the bottom, since our 0, 0 coordinate is down here. So we will go over and load up the jig. So one thing to note is if you are only printing a couple of balls like I am and not a full sheet worth, the EufyMake takes the height of the golf ball measurement, or of your whatever is here measurement, from about the middle of the bed first. So you want to make sure you put some other golf balls that are the exact same in kind of the middle of the bed, so it captures that measurement first. And then we're just going to put our golf balls aligned in these slots that we have filled on our print file. Now that we have our golf balls placed in the jig, we can come back here and adjust our options here. So material, I'm going to say unknown. Quality, I want to bump this up because this is my final product. So I'm going to say high quality. And then I am going to print, I don't need white since it's a white base. So I'm just going to say CMYK and then gloss. And I'm going to increase my gloss varnish to 2 layers. And it is ready to print. Here are our finished golf balls. Turned out great.